Welcome back to Earth Station Trek, a show where we trek from the early days on NBC to the future on Paramount Plus and everywhere in between. I'm Charles Kelso, and it's my privilege to introduce the Earth Station Trek crew, Keith Johnson.
I knew primitive humans lacked intelligence. I didn't know they were this stupid.
Alan Seiler.
I forgot to come up with a quote, so I'm just going to say 80.
And Veronica Dashel.
Hi.
And we're having a belated celebration today. We're celebrating our 80th episode. A few weeks late. We got a little busy over the summer, and we kept pushing it back. We had things coming up. But we're getting together today to celebrate our 80th episode as a podcast. And if you're new to the show, you may not know that we have a little tradition where every 20 episodes we'll review the 20th episode of every Star Trek, then the 40th episode of every Star Trek, and then the 60th episode of every Star Trek. So this week we're going to be talking about the 80th episode of every Star Trek series that's gone this far. And we lost the original series this time.
Yeah, just barely, man.
Yeah,
they made it all the way to 79.
Yep.
That's
and
right.
We decided not to cheat. We decided not to count the Turnabout Intruder or the Cage or something like that, because the whole point is to look at where the shows are at this point in their development. And I mean, it's a big milestone for each of the shows that got past that 79 number and surpassed. There's the spinoffs got further than the original series did.
I was going to say it's quite a milestone for those shows and for us.
That's right.
Can you imagine, like, when we first started, that we would now be at 80 80, what is it, 5 now?
Yeah, this is like 84, I think.
Yeah,
not counting
84.
any bonus episodes we've put out over the numbers get a little fuzzy.
That's crazy. But and as you said, we did have, we were planning on doing this for our 80th, but we had a number of opportunities come our way the past few weeks. One of them, of course, being Andrea Kindred. Right. And when Andrea Kindred says, "Yeah, I'd love to be on your podcast," you don't say, "Oh, that's fantastic, but we have this other thing that we need to do first, and then we'll get around to you."
Right.
No.
When Andrea Kindred says yes, you just say yes right back and without even thinking.
Exactly right. So yeah, 80th episodes this week. I mean, I think that every time we've done this, the episodes have gotten better.
Yes.
Well, that's
overall.
good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the shows are improving as they go along.
Yeah, we're getting into season 3 territory.
Yep. So the episodes that were.
Yeah, I was. So go ahead, Charles.
Do it again.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say it was so funny just turning on DS9 and Cisco is in full Cisco. He's bald. He's got the beard. He's got the swagger. It was amazing. just watching that.
Yeah.
Right on.
It's sort of watching the shows become what they are, as they go along.
Yeah.
By episode 20, Next Gen hadn't hit its stride yet, for instance. DS9 hadn't hit its stride yet. But I mean, the episodes that we're talking about tonight are going to be Legacy from the Next Generation, Little Green Men from DS9, Mortal Coil from Voyager, and Borderland from Enterprise. And I guess the next time we do this, Enterprise will be off the list.
That's right.
Did they make it to 100?
Well,
they made it to 98, right?
Ooh, yep.
I can't remember. Well, how do you count? Because I thought 100 was what you had to have for syndication, but how did they actually count that?
Well, but they didn't make it to 100. So when the show ends, you go to syndication, even if you've done 5.
Yeah.
Or at least you're available for syndication.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess we should kick it off with the Next Generation episode, Legacy.
All right.
And first thing, did you guys catch the Turnabout Intruder reference in Legacy?
Oh man, you beat me to it. Yeah.
Well,
go ahead, Charles. No, go ahead. Because I have something to say about that.
Okay. Yeah. So in the last episode of the original series, the Turnabout Intruder, they were on an archaeological mission to the planet Camus 2. And so in Picard's opening log, they said they've received a distress signal, and so they're going to be bypassing their archaeological expedition to Camus 2. A little nod to the fact that they had gone one episode now past what the original series had accomplished, which is cute, which is fun. What were you going to say about it, Keith?
It's not keeping track of those things.
A comment I had on that, lest anybody thinks that I am too enlightened and I don't hold on to certain grudges. Every time I turn on Star Trek, I literally mumble about, it used to be on Netflix, and it was better on Netflix, and it ran better across all platforms. But But, and this is weird, I'm going to complain at the same time I praise. On my television, my Roku, I didn't see this. But on my phone, which I was using, the thing that you brought up, Charles, that's where I saw it because I accidentally paused it on my phone and all this trivia scrolled across my Android phone screen watching Paramount Plus. That information that you mentioned and a whole bunch of trivia was on the screen when I was streaming Star Trek on Paramount Plus. Yes, on my phone, kind of like X-Ray and Amazon Prime. I hit pause, and all of a sudden it had all this stuff, and it said this trivia, and it talked about that Camus, and it talked about, and it said that one of the there was some place on the planet when they were going down to rescue the Federation people that had the same name as something referenced in The Next Generation. I'll find it, but. Yeah, so that was a praise for Paramount Plus because I always curse it, but that's where I found it. But it was only on my phone, not on my Roku.
Wow,
that's not.
Isn't that bizarre?
Place to have like text all over your screen.
Yeah, I'm gonna try that though. That's interesting because, like you, I grumble a lot about Paramount Plus. Our nightly Star Trek watching. I've started putting on Pluto TV just because it's less frustrating to use than Paramount Plus.
And whatever happens to be on Pluto TV is what we listen to.
Yes.
Yes.
That's so interesting because I do watch on my Roku. I have the Paramount, installed on my Roku, and I have never had a single issue with it.
Really?
We keep getting commercials even though we're paying for no commercials.
That's the other thing I'm pissed about.
Yeah. And this is going to turn into a gripe session.
Yeah, well,
we'll save that. So let's talk about Legacy.
I enjoyed it. It was probably, I will say this, what you guys are all saying about how these all got better. I will say I enjoyed all the shows that we watched. And there was not a one where I would say, oh, I don't want to watch that again. This was probably my least favorite, and that's a relative thing, only because it was one of the few shows, as much as I like it, it was one of the few shows that kind of fit what some people sometimes said about TNG, which was it was kind of slow paced for me. And I'm usually the last person to say anything is slow paced because I love I like to call it deliberate pacing. But it was a little slow for me. At the same time, it felt a little rushed for me, because I felt like the action and stuff was slow, but I honestly felt like this. I get the whole thing about loving Tasha Yar, but the way everybody kind of fell for her and was fooled by her made it feel like it was rushed for me, even though I still kind of enjoyed the show. And I hate to say this, but my God, the 80s look. There were people with headbands and mullets, and I just get joy from that. Okay, but substantively, I thought it was an interesting idea that could have been maybe just handled a little better. This is probably one that needed a two-parter, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I just don't think that idea. I think what you're saying is right as far as like the development of. I just don't think it would have been a dreadfully boring two-parter.
Yeah, well, that's probably true.
Well, the problem with it, and I like that they're delving into their own mythology at this point. It's bringing back the memories of Tasha Yar, and she wasn't just off the show and forgotten. She's a part of their journey now,
right?
But I mean, surely nobody in 1990-ish was watching this and was shocked that she turned against them. I mean, I know that I've seen this episode since I was like 10 years old, but even watching it, I was like, there's nobody out there could possibly have been surprised.
Right.
No, whenever someone's like, I'm going to leave these people and come and be with you guys now, it's always, every single time, double cross.
Well, really, I think that Starfleet officers, I'd love to see an episode where someone beams on the ship and they're like, oh, you're a sibling of one of our crewmen, and everyone just pulls their phasers out. Because the siblings of the crewmen are always evil.
Oh yeah, wow. Good point. I will say at the beginning of the show, I did enjoy the poker game, and it's so silly, but I do laugh every time I see Data in the hat playing the poker dealer. But yeah, I do too. But you know what they always say? You know what the joke everybody says is, you've got an empath. And then you've got an android who should be able to like detect heartbeat and stuff. And Riker is always, and a Klingon who I guess worst case might kill you. And Riker is always winning or doing really well. So I thought that was, and then if you bring Geordi in, he should be able to see through the cards. So The
Right.
poker games are always funny, and I've always wondered, what do you think would happen on a Klingon ship? Do they play anything approaching poker? Because I could see them getting violent if somebody bluffs somebody. You know, like you dishonor their house if you bluff them or something. So
You were
Yeah.
without honor.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
gotta be. There's gotta. What games do Klingon warriors play in their downtime?
Yes. Yes,
Yeah, I imagine it's a lot of just punching each other in the chest.
Yeah.
like
I
the
imagine
Nautican-
it's a lot of that. It's a lot of that like dagger thing with the
Right.
fingers.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. But one more quick thing, Charles. I thought something you said I thought was very interesting. It's amazing. I didn't think about that. Is they were showing a failed colony, which is something you rarely see in Star Trek, and I didn't even really that didn't even cross my mind till right now because usually they're improving people's lives.
Mhm.
This was a failed one, and I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, and I guess Nimbus 3 was kind of that way in the movies, where it was just a pit, you know.
Right.
And I'm a little surprised that Starfleet doesn't like move in when that sort of situation is going on. Like the situation's got out of control in this colony. We need to step in, you know.
Yeah.
No, it's just you're out in space and you're just on your own. You decide to start a colony and it doesn't go well. Hate it, you know.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that, and that's the reason. And maybe Alan, you're right. Maybe if it was the same show for 2 episodes as a 2-part, it would be dull. But there seemed like there was really a gem and germs of really good stuff there. Like I'm very intrigued by Tasha's sister, but it seemed like there was not enough time to really develop her because she's pretty much I hate my sister. She was a coward. She abandoned me, which was kind of strange.
Yeah.
And then everybody's like, "Oh, we love her and we trust her." And then, like you said, you kind of felt. My wife literally walks in and goes, "She's dirty, right? She's gonna betray them." Like, how do you know? She goes, you can just kind of tell.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's how TV drama works. So
Yeah.
maybe not a 2-parter, but maybe had she maybe had the story resolved the way, you know, in the 45 minutes that it has, and then
Right.
she stays on the ship for whatever reason, and she's there for maybe 3 episodes in different scenarios. But so it's not a 2-parter, but the character carries over, and you have that time to sort of develop crew feelings for her, and you know, and see how all that evolves.
Yeah.
You know, it's just
I
like
agree.
it's just like we've said, not to bring up again Tuvix, but just like the way we were talking about how it would have been so interesting to have Tuvix on for 3 or 4 episodes to make that decision that they have to make at the end of that one episode that much more impactful, and to invest, because the way it is, you know how it's going to resolve.
Yeah.
You know 100% how it's going to revolve. So have that character on for 3 episodes or 4 episodes and let the audience start to think maybe they really have pulled a fast one on us, you know?
Exactly.
And then pull that punch, and then make them make the characters decide, do we kill him? Do we resurrect the other 2 people? What do we do?
Right.
Same with Yar.
Yeah.
That would have been interesting, I think.
I will say I thought that Brett Spiner's performance and acting in here was excellent. And
I really enjoyed his
yeah.
performance there.
And at the end, when he talked about the feelings, well, here we go, the feelings, when he was talking to Riker about what was going on, that was really heartfelt. And I thought that kind of redeemed the show. Not that I didn't like the show, but I thought the way Brent Spiner conveyed that emotion and walking that really weird line between he's not supposed to have emotion, but we all know that he has emotion. I thought he did a good job. That actually made me tear up at the end. I thought he was phenomenal there.
That is so interesting that you bring that up, Keith, because both of those points, exactly those points, I'm going to make in the later 2 of the other episodes that we're going to talk about.
Okay.
Look at
Veronica,
that.
what did you think?
Carry through.
So of these episodes, one of them I've obviously seen a lot. One of them I've seen a couple times, and this is one of the 2 that I have no recollection of ever having seen.
Really?
So, and we were also, so we ended up pausing this and watching it over the course of a day or 2. And it was around the same time when we were watching the most recent Orville episode, which had a similar-ish story, where someone that's semi from their past, but not really, is kind of being like, "Hey, I want to defect with you guys," and you know the entire time what's going to happen. So I was thinking about that the entire time. The comparison there.
Yeah.
Interesting. And
Yeah.
what conclusions did you come to in your comparisons?
That they're always gonna turn and
Okay,
try and
gotcha.
not be good.
Well, it needed a double twist.
Yes.
You know, like it has the
Yeah.
twist. You sort of see the twist coming. You need a double twist
yes.
where something else happens and she turns back, or something's not what it seemed, and you know what I mean. The plot I don't think is particularly gripping in this episode, but
Yeah.
I think that the character stories work very well because,
Yeah.
like I said, it's. I mean, it's a lot of shows you have an actor leave and they get written off or killed off, but I like that they maintain Tasha Yar as part of the tapestry
Mhm.
of Next Gen as it goes on, and not every episode, obviously, but when it comes up. You know,
Right.
it happened in Measure of a Man when he had the little hologram of her. It happened
Yeah.
in Yesterday's Enterprise. It happens later when Selah comes on,
Yeah.
to varying degrees of success. But, but
True.
I like that. I think it worked well in this episode. Of hey, we remember our fallen comrade. You know, she was important to us. She was, I mean, she was a main character on the show. She was just as important to us as we were to each other.
That's true.
And I like that they carry that through.
Yeah, and speaking of those feelings, I love the scene when she walked into the briefing room. Everybody just was looking at her.
Right.
There's a whole room. It's like you just walk into a room and ugh. She goes, "Okay, you don't think I'm her sister," which I thought was kind of wild.
Yeah.
A couple of quick things, real fast. We're talking the trivia we were talking about. There's a sign there's a sign when they're underground doing their whole raid and stuff. It says King Mai Hotel, or MEI, if that's pronounced Mai. That was the name of a business in Another 48 Hours. And that was a real oblique reference to Denise Crosby in the 48 Hours series. And I mean, that's one of those things. I probably should say that for a trivia contest, because who the heck is going to figure that one out?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's so weird.
Another thing, and I don't know, one of the things we should do a game on this or trivia on this. I am positive that, because he's done it before, in this episode, Brent Spiner used the contraction. At the beginning of the episode, he said, we'll be entering the system in 11 hours. I'm not joking. I played this 5 times because you can say we will real fast, and he says we'll. I have this thing where I catch him sometimes when he's doing it. It's just my thing. So I'm
It is
pretty
your
sure-
thing. You have mentioned this a number of times.
Yeah, and I'm sure somebody on the internet has done this for us. You know, done all those contractions. And then the last thing I got to say, guys, I hate to bring this up, but I got to do this thing. Picard's looking around, blah, blah, blah. And Troy says about Ashara's boss, her commander, he's deceitful and manipulative. But I don't have a good reading on the young woman. So she can't, basically she says, be careful. I don't know if we can trust them. And that's literally the sum total of Troy's contribution to the thing. Her boss, who is skeezy as all get out, she's like, he's deceitful, manipulative, but she can't even tell if Ashara is being honest or not. So poor Troy.
It would be awesome if, like, season 7, she revealed she wasn't empathic, and it just like it started at some point. She had to just keep going with it. Just be careful, Captain. That Romulan seems untrustworthy.
Oh, wow.
It just went on too long, and she couldn't stop.
Yeah.
Oh, and then so Chuck pointed this out when we were watching the episode. The time that the blood work to check and see if she was Tasha's sister took like 2 hours.
Yes.
But on DS9, Jadzia like scanned someone and they're like, "Yep, she's an O'Brien."
Because we just recently had watched the Times Orphanage. Is it Times Orphanage? The one where they get to the planet and find their own descendants there, and they're supposed to crash into the past.
Yeah.
And yeah, she scans someone with the tricorder and is like, "Yep, she's definitely an O'Brien." And takes like 30 seconds.
Wow. That's
But,
funny.
It just
I
we just
thought
happened
that
to watch
too.
it within like a few days of each other.
I thought
Yeah.
that too, especially because they're full siblings. That's like the easiest test you can take. Full siblings
Yeah.
and parent and child. I thought that as
Right.
well.
Mhm.
For some strange reason, I know we're running out of time on this one. For some strange reason, I liked her commanding officer only because he was like B-movie skis. And I love at the end, you know, he's kind of like, "Hey, Captain," and I just, Picard's like, "Just cut this fool off." So it was something about him that was almost funny to me. He's like, he could have been in 48 Hours as like one of the minor bad guys or something like that.
Well, I loved it that their costumes were very 1990. Like they could have
Oh, God.
walked on to any other show in 1990 and been just
Yeah.
fine.
Yes.
All right, we want to pivot and move into Deep Space Nine.
Yes.
We better pivot because
Yep.
if that first one was the least interesting of the 4, it's gonna be a
Oh,
long
boy.
show.
Said the Little Green Men.
Yes.
What do you think, Veronica?
It's one of the best Star Trek episodes ever.
Maybe we
That was
can.
it.
No,
maybe
no
we can-
argument. Obviously.
Maybe we can cut a little time because we've discussed this one before.
We
Yeah.
have.
So
We
have.
have.
Yeah, it's great though. I
it
love
was
this episode.
fantastic. I love
Every
it
joke
so
still
much.
works. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is like the trouble with triples. Every joke
Mm.
still works.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I laughed every time, even when they were
Yeah.
saying goofy stuff. Oh, and did y'all notice one thing that actually, I don't know if we had talked about this for you, right, Alan? But my God, was everybody puffing cigarettes?
Oh yeah.
I mean, they were really pushing the point that it was a different time. The doctor
yeah.
was lighting a cigarette. The general was chopping the cigar. Everybody was like, just cigarettes everywhere. It was awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of how it was in the 60s,
Uh-huh.
Well, the 40s.
40s.
It was
And-
1947.
40s.
Yep.
Yeah, and 70s and
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So
Okay,
I love
so-
this episode.
oh,
I mean,
it's so good.
yeah.
I think there's a line from okay, I think it's funny when they gave Nog the book on Earth, and like a couple hours later, Nog knew everything about Earth history. I mean, I thought it was like, what did he? My God, he read that book fast. But I love the thing when Quark says, "There are primitive, backward people, Nog. Pity them." And I thought there were just so many good one-liners in there. I thought that was absolutely hilarious. And then they even talked about how even the Ferengi didn't irradiate their own planet. And Quark's like, nobody puts a nuclear reactor in the atmosphere. Nobody would do that.
Right.
I love when he's rattling off the things he knows about humanity. He's like, yeah, we've been watching you for years. Baseball, root beer, darts.
Yeah. And the line that made me laugh the most, and I thought it was so funny because talk about humanizing and crossing cultures and species, is when the general tells Quark, "You remind me of my brother-in-law, and he's a car salesman.
Right.
And I don't trust him, and I don't trust you." And I love it.
Right.
I do love that too. I also
Yeah.
love that when the general is I forget what he's saying, but it's about he's referring to the president and he
Uh-huh.
refers to him as that piano playing Democrat. That's
Yeah, he
hilarious.
said he's not as stupid as he looks. Like, whoa.
Right. Oh
I
man.
thought that was hilarious. And then
Oh,
of course the line the line we talked about before where Nog brings up the picture of Gabriel Bell. That's just great.
Yeah. And I love when Quark's like, yeah, yes, you got to give up things like tobacco and atomic bombs. That stuff will kill you.
Yeah,
Oh,
it it was just so good.
I do. I enjoy the scene where they're in the interrogation, and Nog sort of turns it around on the humans.
Yeah.
You know, and Quark is like, "What the hell? What are you doing?" You know, and Nog knows what he's doing,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it's like that Starfleet mentality kicks in for him. You know, like he knows how to get out of this situation. I
Yeah.
love that scene.
Yes,
And-
yes.
And talking about, every 20 episodes and we're charting sort of the development of the shows.
Mhm.
Was it Heart of Glory or not? Was it Heart of Stone?
Heart of
Um,
Stone.
Wasn't that the one we did last time when Quark? I mean,
Yeah.
when Nog, asked Cisco that, to sponsor him to join Starfleet.
Yeah.
And now
Yes.
here we are 20
Yes.
episodes later, and he's
Yeah.
headed to Earth. He's selling his possessions and heading off to Earth. I think that's serendipitous that it happened to be 20 episodes later.
Absolutely. What a good point. I didn't even think about the fact that that was one of the ones that we had done
Yeah,
in the 60th. That's so cool.
yeah,
Yeah, and I also thought that they integrated the Ferengi culture, which can sometimes be too comical, well, because the whole point of selling off stuff before he went off to Starfleet was cool. And what I loved was even though Nog was going to become a Starfleet cadet, he was blackmailing Quark just like Rob was. 'Cause he's like, "Well, I'm not a cadet yet, so I'll take my
Right.
interest." Yeah, I thought that was awesome because he's
not
still a
been sworn
Ferengi,
in.
right?
and as he goes along, they do a good job of balancing his Ferenginess with his Starfleetness. And
Yeah.
sort of just integrating it together.
Mhm.
Right. Like when he asked, when he asked, was it O'Brien? He said, would that book on Earth make him attractive to human females? Well,
No.
The thing that I love most about this episode is that Star Trek, when they do families, they sometimes do
Mhm.
them well. And that's like the Cisco family is
Mhm.
so well done. This is
Right.
probably the only time that an episode focuses on a non-human family.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And makes them the centerpiece of the story and their culture and their mindset. And I love that. And they take put them in that sort of like, quote unquote primitive Earth.
Yeah.
And instead of like, aren't Ferengis weird compared to Cisco and Dax? But no, now they're taking them and putting them on Earth in a very specific situation and using that as the thing that highlights their alienness, but making them the fulcrum of the episode.
Yeah,
I
and
love it. I think it's so smart.
characters.
What's that?
They're the point of view characters.
Exactly.
We're
Exactly.
seeing Earth through their eyes.
Right.
Yeah.
And hearing them through their ears.
Yeah. Oh, that
Which
was
is
so
cool.
that was so funny.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
And what I like about
Brilliant.
Alan, what I like about that is Quark goes from being a little scared or whatever to he's like, boy, these people are really stupid. And then I love this line where he says later on, Quark says, these people they're nothing like Federation. They're crude, gullible, and greedy.
Yep.
And he's just dripping. And Nog is like, you can't mess with the timelines, whatever. He's like, we're gonna sell our ship to the Ferengi 400 years ahead of time. We'll make the Ferengi Empire rich. I'll be ruling everything. I mean, he's just gone down this whole other path. It's just amazing to me.
I
Well,
love it.
Quark didn't take an oath for the prime director.
Nope.
You know,
is true.
he's just a guy.
Quark is an opportunist.
Right?
Yeah.
100%. And he sees a golden opportunity.
Mhm.
Ooh, yeah.
I don't know if written today. I don't know if the whole Umox thing would go over written today
Yeah.
because that's just a
No.
little crazy.
That's God, I love that so much. It's so funny.
It really is. I think Umux is hilarious.
Oh,
Okay,
man.
I'm just gonna say ew, but okay.
You've just never had good Umox, Keith.
I don't even know how to respond. See? What do I say? Yes, I have. No, I haven't. There's no answer to that.
No.
There's no response to that. But yeah, this absolutely held up. I mean, every joke, even y'all know how I criticize the science. When Ron was rattling off all that weird chemosite, this and that, I just laughed because I don't. And then they found an atomic bomb to fly into. I'm like, I just laughed because this makes no sense. I'm going with it.
It's just an expediency. It
Yes.
doesn't have to make sense. But you're absolutely right. It does hold up. Every single time I watch this episode, it is still good. It's still one of the best episodes. I never get tired of it.
Yeah.
It is a
Same here.
solid episode.
Hey, and his cousin, the one who he said he let the money to go into munitions, is that the one who comes in later on who's a horrible arms dealer?
Yeah, Cousin Gala. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's the same guy, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's another good episode.
Mm.
Gala owns his own moon.
Yes, that's the one.
Exactly.
All right. We want to pivot and get into Star Trek Voyager.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I say one last thing real quick?
Yes.
10 seconds. I had such a hard time stopping at this show because before this episode was The Way of the Warrior, The Visitor, Hippocratic Oath, Indiscretions, Starship Down, The Visitor, and after it was Sword of Kalis, Our Man Bashir, and Homefront.
Right.
I struggled to get away from DS9.
Yeah, you can't let it
No.
autoplay, or that's just your life now.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, this is, the first 3 seasons of DS9 are really good.
Yeah.
But season
Yeah.
4, man, it just kicks into high gear.
Yes. Yes.
Especially that first half of that season is so incredibly solid.
Amazing.
And you haven't even gotten to season 6 yet.
right.
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 Come on.
Well,
Okay, now we pivot.
what's also good though is
Oh,
season 4
sorry.
of Voyager. Because I thought Voyager had a really good 4th season also.
It really did.
Yeah.
It really
I mean,
did.
it starts off with the Scorpion 2-parter,
Yeah.
from season 3 to season 4.
Yeah.
And I think Voyager's just knocking it out of the park after that.
Yeah.
This episode, Mortal Coil, I didn't have a good memory of. It was a lot of things in this that I didn't remember, but I really enjoyed this episode.
I did
Mhm.
too. I did too. And normally I don't really care much for Neelix centric
Mhm.
episodes.
Right.
And we have talked before about doing a religion in Star Trek episode,
Yes.
which I really want us to do. But the one from
Mhm.
Voyager that I always think of the most is the one where Ensign Kim goes to whoever those other people are, and they want to know about their afterlife, and it turns out that theirs isn't what they think it is, and I forget about this one.
Right.
And this one is so personal.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
It
man,
really is.
I'm really glad that this is one of the ones that we rewatched.
Yeah,
because I haven't seen it in a long time.
So this is the other one that I had never seen.
Okay.
And
Awesome.
the very first thing I asked was, why didn't Seven bring back, oh, now I'm forgetting his name, Elnor. If she can bring back,
if you could use
Neelix,
Borg nanoprobes to bring
why
back dead
didn't she
people.
bring back Elnor? Because it hadn't been any hours. She could have just gone over there and been
Well,
like,
I mean,
boop.
why didn't you use Borg nanoprobes to resurrect anybody? You know,
right.
I mean, I would say it's specific to the type of injuries that he had, and not think too much more about it, because it's one of those episodes where they cure death in Star Trek and just never mention it again.
Right. Yeah, they missed literally one line where they threw some technobabble about the proto matter energy thing, kind of sort of took the place of his nervous system for a while, and you could never do it with any other kind of injury. You're right. There was something like that. They just kind of missed that. Because I thought that was fairly interesting that Seven just blithely says, you just need some nanoprobes, and okay.
Yeah, but here's the other side of that, though. Elnor and none of the other characters that we're thinking of got a cold open that showed how important they are to every person on the ship.
Yeah,
and this cold open was like rapid fire. Neelix, I need you to do this. Neelix, I need you to make me coffee. Neelix, can you get my daughter to go to sleep? Neelix, I need this. And you're like, oh, it's just all in a day's work because I'm Neelix. So, clearly they have to resurrect him or the ship will fall apart.
I always wonder, every time I see, like you said, Alan, they really leaned into it in this episode.
Leaned into it.
But every time I see Neelix as like protocol officer and cook, and then he was training for security, I always flash forward to the episode in season 6 or 7 where there's all these crewmen who basically for all those years have been doing nothing. That one of them was an astronomer, and Janeway, after like 6 years, 7 years, like, oh, hey, these people aren't producing. Let me go introduce myself to them. So I've always wondered, why the heck on a ship that small, all that way from Earth, did they have all these people who are basically useless?
Right.
And like, does Neelix just step up and take their slots? I mean, is it like Neelix volunteers so he gets the job? Because those other people should have been doing other stuff. Yeah, I've never understood that. But it kind of emphasized that today, because he's literally like the chief cook and bottle washer.
Yeah.
Well, I thought this episode really improved Neelix's character.
Yeah.
And I remember back was our 20th episode, I think, when we were talking about Elogium and the whole Neelix-Kess relationship. But I mean,
creepy.
You have really the beginning of his relationship with Naomi Wildman in this episode.
Yeah.
She wasn't played by Scarlett Palmer's yet, but
Right.
I think giving him that paternal relationship works so much better for the character.
100%.
I mean, we were talking about that when we were talking about Elogium in episode 20, that if Kess had been more of a child that he was caring for and he was responsible for, then him being overly worried and overprotective and stuff wouldn't have come off as weird. You know what I mean? As opposed to, now my child bride is reaching sexual maturity and I have to decide if I want to be a dad,
Yeah, that's creepy.
I think the Naomi Wildman thing works so much better, and I think it improves his character a lot.
I totally agree.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that.
The first thing I thought of when I saw like his afterlife thing was the Naomi episode later on with the tree people, the tree person,
With
the water person.
Yeah,
it reminded me of that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%. So there's this thing where Neelix has now come back to life and he's a little shaky on his feet. I don't know what I'm about or anything. And they're like, well, let's go onto the shuttle and recreate the accident and investigate the thing.
Thank you.
And he watches his own death. Holy smokes! How traumatizing must that be?
Alan, and I wrote in my notes, Mr. Spiritual is the guy doing it. It's like, did it not cross your freaking mind that that Neelix is gonna watch his death? Then he's just looking at Neelix, like, dude.
Right.
Hey, like, what's your problem?
Yeah.
How could he not possibly come to the point of suicide by the end of the episode?
Yeah.
Plus, I think that ending was so good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I thought it was so well, and it makes me think of I hate to bring it up, but the suicide episode in Picard season 2. This
Mm.
works, and this is Neelix we're talking about. This is, any episode that starts with Neelix getting killed, I'm like all for it. So when it's Neelix that's at the point of suicide and has to be talked down from the ledge and has to be given a reason to live, that's
Yes.
powerful.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah,
so
and
impressed.
Yeah, and in Picard season 2, and I commented that I didn't care for that element of the storyline because of some personal things.
I have
But-
no memory of that storyline.
Well, it
Already?
was glamorized in Picard season 2. It was shot very beautifully, and the whole
Yeah.
story resolved
Yeah.
with it being inevitable, and it had to
Yeah.
happen. And I don't care for that. I like it much better here. I thought this was handled much better. That he feels like, I mean, he's dealing with the idea that all of his deeply held beliefs, which I don't think we'd ever heard about before this episode,
Nope.
all of his deeply held beliefs aren't real, and and they're giving him the idea that you do have something to live for, and even if it's something as simple as this little girl is frightened and needs you to help her go to sleep, that's something. You know what I mean? And I just, it's not presented here as something that's beautiful, and it's not shot
Yeah.
beautifully. You know what I mean? It's not
Agreed.
glamorized.
And
And I think this episode handles the ideas of suicide, the storyline much better than they
Yeah.
did in Picard.
Yeah.
Alan, I agree. I'm sorry, I mean cut you off, Charles.
No, go ahead.
Let me go ahead and finish. I apologize. My video.
I already
kicked in.
said everything.
Okay. Alan, you said something I thought was very interesting, and this happens with some characters. Like for me, B'Elanna Torres, and for other people, Wesley Crusher and Neelix. I didn't like Neelix much at first when I watched Voyager, but oddly, I had only watched maybe 40% of Voyager when it ran.
Mhm.
And so
Right.
over the last 5 years, I've finally caught up, and I actually like Neelix more. And I think sometimes it may be like you watch an entire 7 seasons in several months, like I did.
Yeah.
And here's the thing: other than the creepy relationship with Kess, one of the things that I did come to conclusion with is you're right. Neelix is irritating. He's sometimes he tries to ingratiate himself too much. He wants to be the security guard. He wants to be the protocol officer, but when you get the episodes like the one Jetrel, that's the one where he found the guy who
Yeah.
created that weapon that killed his people and his
Yeah.
sister, and you get episodes like this, what you find out is Neelix is a broken man who went through hell. And then you found out later on, spoilers, that he was basically a deserter during the war.
Yeah.
And you find out that a lot of that humor and all that ingratiating himself, that's what he forces himself to do, because Neelix is dark. He's a really dark character. He's sad. He's bereft. He's lonely. He's full of guilt. And so then when I look at it in that light, that kind of really irritating Linux is always trying to get Neelix is giving you the soup and like wants to do 10,000 jobs. I kind of get it. He's trying to find purposes in life because he doubts himself and he's full of pain and loss. And so a show like this works for him. And even Phillips is such a good dramatic actor too.
Yeah, he really is.
Oh, yeah. So 2 things, except that I can't remember what the first one is. So I'm going to go on to my second thing, which is, as much as this episode sort of renews my appreciation of Neelix, it also gives me a different appreciation of Chakotay.
Yeah,
I think especially that ending scene where he's the one who has to
Yeah.
first guide him on his vision quest, and then
Yeah.
second talk him off of that ledge. I thought that was some really good material for him, and I really appreciated that. My least 2 favorite characters on the show were featured in a way that really made me appreciate them and enjoy them.
Yeah. I thought they had some good material for 7 of 9 also.
It is, yeah.
With her admitting that Neelix is important and she doesn't want to lose him, even if she doesn't know how to express that.
Yeah.
And I like the, they're talking about the afterlife thing, and she was talking about, well, technically my memories are still in the collective, so I'll always live forever. And like, well, do you get comfort from that? And he seems sort of like, she's like, well, I mean, it didn't sound like she was being genuine when she was like, yeah, like, I don't know how comforting it would be for your memories to live on in the collective.
Right. It seems like she was kind of wondering, like she's kind of questioning that.
Yeah.
Is she, do I take comfort in that? It's
Right.
like she's on a much, smaller, but the similar journey to what Neelix is on.
Yeah.
She's questioning, but he was like forced into this, I love that scene between them in the mess hall where he's like, you had no right to bring me back. I didn't ask to be brought back. And she's like, well, you were dead at the time.
Right.
But I loved his struggle to accept and understand this whole situation that he's basically been put in.
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
I'm surprised at how much I really enjoyed this episode.
I thought so too, and I like you, Alan. I love religion in Star Trek because
me too,
religion
me too.
religion is the ultimate thing that nobody will ever prove. I had two friends over my life who have tried to convince me. Because I was raised, very traditional religion. My late father was a preacher, and I had two friends who, and since everybody they know that I love astronomy and cosmology, argued with me logically that there's no God. And one of my friends said, "Keith, you can't prove there's a God." And I said, "I absolutely agree with you." And he goes, "So why do you believe in a God?" I said, "Because it gives me comfort." And then he went on, and he said, and he was babbling about, I don't like religious people, this and that. And I said, "You know what, dude? Let me tell you something. I believe in God, but I don't believe in pushing religion on people. And by the same token, I don't believe people like you should spend your time trying to convince me there is no God. Because if you win, then what? I'm bereft, and what? You're happy? You won because you. I know. I'm like, well, I got nobody to pray to at night, and so I love that because back what you're saying, Alan, about Chakotay. Chakotay says something that on the surface makes no sense. He literally said to Neelix, "Your crisis of faith is an opportunity to have even greater faith."
Yes.
Which kind of makes no sense, but it's the essence of religion, and it is not logical. It really is at the end of the day.
Right.
But
Right.
Yeah.
those who believe, that's the whole point. You will never be able to prove there's a God, and you will never be able to prove there's not a God.
Yeah.
Because if you don't believe in an afterlife, you don't believe we're going to have an argument where I said I win. So,
Yeah.
and it's about what gives you comfort, and that's what it all boils down to. They're wormhole aliens or they're gods. It's what you want them to be.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I related a lot to what Neelix is going through in this episode. I don't really talk about this in the show much, but I was very religious until I was about 20 years old. And I for 3 years I was studying to be a minister, and I would speak at churches and teach at youth camps and things like that. And
Really?
but not anymore. I've been an atheist for the last 21 years. So I went through that when I was younger of what I felt like Neelix was going through, of realizing that the things that I drew strength from and the stories that I was told weren't true. You know what I mean? So I just wish in this episode, it's sort of a victim of the episodic storytelling where, did we ever know that Neelix had these beliefs? And was it ever mentioned again after this episode? In this episode, he has these deeply held convictions that give him strength to make it through the day. And then he loses them.
Yeah.
And then moves on. And we never hear about it again. And we never heard about it before,
Yeah.
Kind of like with Worf, at least you do get his religious beliefs all throughout the series, Sto-vo-kor and so forth. So you do get him being religious. So it makes sense.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Well, did we want to move on to Enterprise?
Let's do.
Yes.
When we talked about we watched Borderland.
Yes.
Yes.
Which I think features the best Sung, Eric Sung. I like Eric Sung.
Agreed.
I do too. So,
Agreed.
Keith, earlier you said in Next Gen, you said that you wanted to point out how good a performance Brent Spiner, and I'm saying the same thing in this one. I thought he
Yes.
was
Oh my god, it was amazing.
fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah, when you were saying that, I was like, did we skip ahead?
I
That's
thought
what we're
exactly
still on.
what I was thinking.
What are you doing? You just skip some pages, Keith. But yeah, Brent Spiner was great in this one too. I thought he was really good.
He played smarmy, really smart, but not evil very well.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
Veronica, that is so well said, because I put in here, this is the example when it's not a villain, it's an antagonist.
Exactly.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
And-
just a differing viewpoint.
Yeah, he doesn't want to kill like Malik and some of those people. He's not tossing life aside, but he might kind of sort of if he needs to, but he doesn't want to. He keeps telling Archer just leave. Yeah, he's amoral. He's not immoral. He's amoral, I think.
Yeah, he's not necessarily who's going to murder you, but he will absolutely leave you to die if it comes down to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you might wake up with a third eye because he experimented on you and said, "Hey, this is good for you," but
This is the future.
yeah.
All humans will have 3 eyes when I'm finished with them.
And
So
this episode was really representative of where Enterprise was at this point in the show, because by season 4 they'd gone to these sort of mini arcs, and a lot more drawing from continuity. So in this one,
Yes.
you've got the augments, which is playing off of the Khan thing without bringing Khan back or introducing something silly like his descendant or something like that. But but instead, you've got sort of guys like Khan, you know, and you're sort of referencing the Khan mythology, but also referencing forward in a weird way to the Data mythology.
Yeah,
You know,
That's true.
with Sung being there.
right.
You know, and I gotta say, y'all know how much I complained about the canon twisting that the new track does, and how I keep saying they drive holes, they drive trucks through holes where they sneak in canon twisting in history. This one, as you just said, Charles, I'm okay with it because it wasn't specifically Khan. I mean, if I think about it too hard, I might go, I don't know. But it kind of works in this case. I wasn't as upset with like saying, well, you know, they didn't even mention Khan's people until the original series. It was okay because it was the augments and then they died off. Spoilers. And so I was kind of okay with it. And this one, I actually liked the episode. I gotta say, the actor Malik, for some reason, I don't know why, it's a personal thing, he doesn't work for me as the big bad. It might be that mullet he's sporting. I just don't know. But
Well, they all have that sort of mullet and holes in their shirts look.
Was that supposed to indicate that they've been alone for 10 years and their shirts are falling apart? Seriously? Serious question?
No, it's a fashion choice.
It's got to be. I mean, these guys are smart enough to stitch up their shirts or, or acquire new shirts. If you can acquire,
they can only kill things and make war logic things. They
if you can steal a bird of prey, you can steal a shirt.
Yeah, true.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say I did feel like J.G. Hertzler was wasted in this.
Okay,
Yes.
that's exactly what I was going to say. I was going to say, first of all, the bird of prey looked phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
I was also going to say, anytime you have an episode that J.G. Hertzler is playing a Klingon, even if it's not Martok, is a good episode.
Amen.
Even if he wasn't used enough, even if he was only used in a little bit of it. And I haven't watched these in a long time, so I don't remember if the Klingons are featured in the second half or not. I don't remember. But anyway, that's all.
No.
Well, that's why there's something that I thought happened didn't happen in this episode because there's more. Okay, good. I feel better.
Yeah. It's a three-parter.
Yeah, it's a three-parter.
Is it 3 or 2? I thought it was 2.
It's
might
3.
Be right. I thought it was 3.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's actually 3, and they don't have the same name as Borderlines, Cold Station 12, and then the last one. And so it's actually a 3-part. Yeah, and I forget the name of it, which I wrote down. I can't believe I forgot that.
But they referenced all the episode titles in that dialogue at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah. I wrote something down that I thought was kind of interesting. Alan and Charles were talking about this is pre-TNG and stuff like that. Under Roddenberry, there's no way they would have had a Cold Station 12 they referenced where they were keeping embryos of the augments and all these incredibly deadly diseases. Now, you keep these things for research, but I bet on a Roddenberry he would have had a problem with some of that because obviously there's an indication here that the Federation might use some of this stuff. I mean, I know like we keep like smallpox bacteria and stuff at the CDC here in Atlanta. We keep all these frozen bacteria, but I think Roddenberry would have had a little problem with it. If nothing else, the fact they were still keeping augment embryos frozen. And I thought that was a fascinating commentary because that's where Sung got them. This isn't Khan's people in a sleeper ship. They froze those embryos for what purpose? I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, but Roddenberry would have loved the Orion slave market.
Oh God, yes.
He would have been into that.
Yeah.
And I forget the actor's name, but as obviously that actor, I think isn't he like a WWE or something actor? The guy who played
Big Show.
Yeah, Big Show, right? And that was I was showing my wife, and she was like, "Oh my God!" I said, "Look at this. That is 100% him picking Jolene Blaylock up like she's a doll, and just doing like when he was laughing. Oh, even my first wife didn't sell for this much."
He's huge.
Good night. Yes. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the slave market. I thought that was really well done.
Yeah.
I did too. I mean, it's another, pull from Star Trek continuity, something that we hadn't seen at that point. We hadn't seen in a long time. We see Orions all the time now. But that was fun.
I do too.
I was trying to fit the lower decks Orions into this because they did have the Orion woman they were selling, and I'm like, well, why are they trying to sell her? Are they trying to take over another culture? Is there a specific culture that they want to take over?
Yeah, well, the implication of the understanding now from what they said in all these episodes is that the whole slave thing is basically a ruse. What better way to plant them somewhere than to sell them as slaves, and then the women become the slaves in these households or these empires, and then they use their pheromones to control from within. So the whole slave thing, once they've retconned it, is literally the ultimate power behind the throne kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's the way they. It doesn't really work if you think
No.
too much about it, but that's the guise they're using.
Yeah. Yeah. I did like the one dude when he was like, if I can't sell you as a slave, I'm going to sell you as food. He's like,
Oh God, yes.
Yes.
And how about that poor ensign or whatever who's like, I read and studied everything about it, but I wasn't prepared for this.
I know. I
one of
know.
those, like, it's my first mission kind of
Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
like a Galaxy Quest. What's his face? You
Right.
know.
right.
Mhm.
I did chuckle at the fact that they threw straw on the cages where they kept the humans, almost like we do for animals. So I thought that was a little weird. Did they
Oh,
expect
that's
them to
funny.
go
I
to-
didn't even. I noticed that, but I didn't think anything of it.
Yeah, like did they expect them to go to the bathroom in there?
Sure, why not?
Probably.
Betting, I guess.
Where else are they gonna go?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess
Exactly.
so.
They're not going to let them out. That's a good
Right.
point.
All right. Well, any more thoughts about that before we go to sort of thoughts
Yeah.
overall?
Yeah. Keith's other point that I was going to bring up from the TNG episode, and I don't remember what it was about. It was about some emotional acting. Data and him
Mhm.
like conveying an emotion without being emotional, basically. And there was that scene where Archer gives to Paul that present. Welcome to your first day as a Starfleet
Yes.
commander.
Yes.
And you can tell that she is so affected by that. Like she's
Yes.
emotionally affected by that, but that she's not going to show it. And it was
It was
such
like the Vulcan version of a squee.
it was such a simple scene. And I thought
Yes.
Jolene was so, I just
Yes.
absolutely love her.
Mm.
And but especially in seasons 3 and 4, I think she's phenomenal. And that one little scene, but also like when she's talking to those two scenes where she's talking to Trip and they get interrupted, and you can tell that there's more going on under the surface than what she's wanting to show. She's so good.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
She really is. And also, Alan, that shows one reason which I have really progressed to the point that I truly love Enterprise, the series. That shows so much growth because if you go back to the first episodes, the way Archer felt about all Vulcans and her, they were adversarial. And then now they trust each other, truly, truly trust each other. And it's a natural growth and it feels realistic. So I love that.
100%.
Yeah,
Agreed.
about that. I have one last quick question before we roll out, Charles. Maybe this says something about me, but when I saw all that stuff that Sung had written in his lab, I literally said, I do not believe they're vaporizing all that research.
Oh, no.
And maybe that's me, but I'm like, are you kidding me? There's no way.
No.
No, they're not doing that.
Yeah, I think they're using all that stuff, even the genetic stuff.
Oh,
They-
yeah.
They have a team of guys in the next room. They're just passing them the
Exactly.
Oh, it goes right next door.
pages. Right.
They're like, hey, pass this off to section 31, will you?
Right?
Well, any overall thoughts? I mean, about where the shows sort of have evolved to by their 80th episode?
They were all pretty solid.
Yeah, I think this is
Yeah.
well, when Alan, when you first posted the list for us to make sure we're all
Yeah.
watching the same episodes.
Yeah.
My first comment was like, this I think is the best group of episodes we've had doing
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And
Yeah.
of course, it helps that it's only 4 of them instead of like 6 or
Mhm.
7 or whatever. But yes, absolutely. This was a good batch of episodes. And I think
And I-
every series is showing its strengths,
Mhm.
you know?
Right.
And maybe the TNG one less so, because there's a lot of stuff going on in TNG around this time that's much stronger.
Right.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
But I think, for the other 3 at least, I think that you're really seeing how much these shows have grown and just what strengths they're growing into. Because this is basically the halfway point.
Mhm.
And the DS9 one is, I counted one time, and I think it's the exact half of season 4, which is the exact half of this whole series. So this is like the apex of DS9, and you can see just how strong that show is from this one episode.
Absolutely, because The Visitor is right around there, and all those other
Man,
episodes. So
that's right.
good. Also, I think you made a good point that I hadn't thought about specifically that way, because I actually like Neelix and Chakotay, or I like to say Chakotay from the alternate thing. But those are characters that aren't always showcased well as far as dramatic, and that
Yeah.
was a great showcase. And I also have to say, I've said many times, I always felt Jerry Ryan sucked the air out of the others. Not anything against her, but it shows again, I will never deny this. I like her character. She's a phenomenal comedic and dramatic actress, because there's that one little scene where Captain Janeway said, "Are you having fun?" No.
No.
It's just so funny. And then when she
Right.
forced her to go mingle, she goes over to Samantha and the doctor. They were talking about kids, and she starts talking about bored children in maturation chambers. And Samantha's okay, I gotta go. And the doctor's like, when they put you in those maturation chambers, they didn't give you conversational skills, did they? And it was
Right.
so funny, because when she first came on the ship, when she first talked to Neelix, she literally mentioned Neelix's species and told Neelix how they had grabbed several of the Talaxians because their body structures made them efficient workers. That's like our first conversation with Neelix. Neelix, like, okay. I mean, what do you say to that?
Right.
Right.
So I agree. All good. All four shows were good. TNG not the best, but they were
Yeah.
all. I would not deny. I would not say I wouldn't watch any of them again.
Exactly.
But I truly enjoyed the day.
And I got to say that I'm like, I haven't watched. I've watched a lot of season 4 of Enterprise recently, but I haven't watched these ones. And after seeing Borderland, I'm really looking forward to going back and finishing the trilogy. I really want to see those next 2 episodes.
It's very good. Oh God, it's good.
I
Veronica,
remember
did you have any
liking it
closing
at the
thoughts?
time, but yeah, sorry,
Sorry.
Yeah.
Veronica.
Me? What?
Did you have any closing thoughts?
I like Fringy.
Okay. What were you saying, Alan?
I don't know.
I should have stayed on
Nothing
that.
important. I was just babbling.
All right.
like
Well,
Fergie.
we're 2 weeks out from Star Trek being back.
I can't even
wow.
believe it. Wow.
Yeah, the summer's flown by.
Yeah, it really has.
So the plan is to keep going live on Thursdays. So anyone after you watch the episode, come join us. We'd
yeah.
love to get your thoughts. I think we'll fall back into a rhythm like we were doing before, where we have the news and history and a little discussion topic, and then get into the episode of the week. And everyone, you can comment and join in and come see us every week. Next week we're gonna have a guest. It's going to be Jeremy Wilcox from the Fandom Squad podcast.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And we're going to be deep diving into Gul Dukat. We're going to have an hour on Gul Dukat. So,
Yeah.
Lord have mercy.
I don't know if that's
Yes.
enough time, because there's a lot to cover with Gul Dukat.
Oh boy.
Right.
That'll be next Thursday, the 18th at 8 p.m. And Alan, where can
Eastern.
people find more of Eastern time? Yes, that's important to note.
Exactly. It is, yeah, because YouTube
Yes.
goes everywhere.
Right. Alan, where
Yeah.
can people find more of you?
Well, you can find I write books, and I write Doctor Who books and some other stuff, and I've published a couple of things, and you can find all that stuff at cosmicpress.com. And I have another podcast called Modern Musicology. And I'm going to say a thing, but I'm not going to say the whole thing. We have an interview that we just confirmed coming up in a few weeks that is somebody from a iconic 80s band.
Wow.
And I am so excited.
Wow.
Awesome.
Okay, there you
Is it Mickey
go. So
Dolenz?
go subscribe to Modern Musicology so you'll be there when it happens.
How
it
about
what?
you, Keith?
You can find me on the Mickey Dolenz 80s.
Oh, go ahead, Keith.
Yes. They had a resurgence then. Come on.
Just the standard social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Now Twitter more than ever.
And how about us, Veronica?
FeltNerdy.com.
And
Monkeying Around, a podcast about the monkeys.
do you have a closing for us this week?
I had one earlier, and now it has failed.
Can
Well,
we?
it wasn't
Can
time
we,
yet earlier.
I know.
can we just say Tuvix?
Tuvix!
Okay.
Yes, that'll be my closing.
Oh, I
forever.
guess I should end this, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
It's in my hands now, isn't it?
Yeah.
So,
I ain't got
all
it.
everybody, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next Thursday. Have a great week.